After my first TED Talk in 2012, I received numerous congratulatory emails. But the ones I treasure the most are the ones that I received from students in middle school and high school. Many said that I was the reason they decided to pursue robotics in high school and in college. Well, even if a tenth of them actually did that, I feel both honored and proud. Indeed, that is my true legacy.
So I've always had videos of my class lectures and robot labs on YouTube because it helped my students to go and do active learning by supplementing their lectures and seeing what their lab should look like. During the pandemic, this was awesome because I had everything I needed ready to go when we went to virtual learning. But I also discovered during the pandemic that people were hungry for more content about robotics and AI. So I transitioned into becoming a SciCommer to show content on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And it also helps me to amplify the diversity in STEM by doing this and connecting with new populations.
My primary concern is the ethical design of technology for positive social outcomes, so my first forays in science communication were trying to find a way of translating social concerns into scientific questions, and then translating science and technology back into social outcomes.
I've always been a big fan of writing down my ideas. I think it helps me brainstorm, solve problems, move forward, make progress in my work. But this pandemic, I also realized it was a huge, vital skill because I could write down different things and then I could share them with other people, and I was able to collaborate and communicate so much more effectively than even before the pandemic. I honestly think that communication is one of the most undervalued but most important part of our work, because if we just build great ideas and great thoughts and don't share them, then they're never going to have any impact.
I started communicating science about 30 years ago when I was a young academic, when I realised that I derived as much pleasure explaining complex ideas to the wider public as I did doing the research myself. Today, of course, we know that science communication is more vital than ever. Not just because the public's fascinated by science stories, not just because we need to inspire the next generation of scientists and engineers, but because wider society needs to be scientifically literate. The public needs to understand how to sift through the deluge of information and misinformation that everyone is bombarded with every day in order to make sensible, rational, evidence-based decisions that are going to affect all our lives.
I read an essay about the leading candidates to chair the Federal Reserve. All three were professors like me. They taught economists, but also the journalists who wrote the essay. And as a result, they helped millions of people, including me, understand what economics is and why it matters to society. Wait a second. People need to know about computer science and why it matters to society too. In the 16 years since I read that essay, that's what I've been trying to do.
To me, it's about how we educate the public on what robots are capable of. Right now, there's just a lot of hype around robots, and it can be really hard to tell fact from Hollywood fiction. I found this to be especially true for autonomous vehicles. Things are often advertised as autonomous or having autonomy when really it doesn't. And it can be really dangerous if you think your car can do more than it really can. That's why I like things like the levels of autonomous driving, because they give really precise definitions of autonomy.
Back in 2014, when everything started getting crazy in AI, there suddenly started appearing on social media and the World Wide Web endless articles either saying that AI was going to destroy humanity or that it was this magic fairy dust that was going to take us to nirvana. And I looked around wondering who was going to stand up and respond to all these stories and tell the truth about what AI is and what it can do. And then finally, it dawned on me that that comes down to people like me, and that I ought to be the one, as a responsible scientist, that was standing up and telling the truth.
When you make a short story to a more general public about your work, and you make a short video about it, then you really have to think thoroughly about your work and get to the core of it. You need to zoom out and see the importance of the work perhaps also from other people's vantage point. And I think that alone is really worth to spend time on it. Also for yourself to better understand the topic, but also to convey your work to others in a very nice way.
Science communication is really important so that we design the right technology with society in mind, but there's actually a lot in it for you as well. So over the past 15 years, science communication has helped me build a network, find students, it's helped me with grant making, find collaborators. It's also helped me with paper citations, and really where it's been useful is in understanding how to communicate about my work and learning so much from my peers. If I write an article about someone else's work, I've just expanded my knowledge in this area, and that sort of breadth has really helped define what I'm going to work on next as a roboticist.